All right, Addison Cooke and the Tomb of the Kahn. Chapter 8, The Jade Tiger. Raja kissed his dog tags for good luck. He climbed up on the banister, preparing to create his diversion, when he was struck by a sudden brainstorm. It all seemed so obvious. All he needed to do was leap to the chandelier, swing to the opposite pillar, slide down on top of an aquarium, and perform a cartwheel dismount. Then he could grab the shield, grab Uncle Nigel, and grab Aunt Delia. He examined the plan in his mind, like a well-cut diamond. It was flawless from every angle. Raja saw it clearly. He would be a hero. Down below, the tall Russian man smiled at Madame Fing. "My men outnumber you. We have the restaurant surrounded. Hand me the shield, Eleanor." Madame Fing narrowed her eyes at the Russian and gestured to Uncle Nigel and Aunt Delia. "Boris, the shield will be no use to you without the cooks to decipher it." "Are they loyal to you?" "They should be. I have their kids." Aunt Delia rose to her feet. "So you keep saying, 'Show them to me,' so I know they're all right." Madame Fang crossed her arms. "Do not try my patience." A dozen armed men, fingers tense on their triggers, nervously followed the exchange. Aunt Delia squinted at Madame Fang, reading her expression. "You don't actually have the kids, do you?" "Of course I do," Madame Fang hissed. Aunt Delia was just hitting her stride. "No, I can tell that you don't, and you'll never catch them. Addison and Molly are far more clever than they look. You won't get within 1,000,000 miles of them." "Enough!" Addison and Molly were raised in the fever swamps of Cambodia, Aunt Delia continued. "They crossed the Mekong Delta in kayaks before they could walk. They've stamped their passports more times than a Swiss diplomat. They know every train and bus terminal from here to Calcutta. Those kids aren't dumb enough to stay in Hong Kong. They're probably halfway to the Ivory Coast by now." And at just that moment, a piercing shriek split the air. "Bandra!" Raja screamed. His war cry took a running leap off the balcony and flung himself through the air to grab the rim of the giant chandelier. The chandelier chain snapped. Raja's war cry peered out. He hovered in mid-air for an instant before he felt the chandelier, along with his plans, plummet, smashing down on the floor below. Guards scattered, covering their heads. Thousands of glass beads spilled everywhere. Running men slipped, crashing to the floor on their backs. Raj, grunting, rolled with the impact. He found himself belly up, staring at Uncle Nigel. Raj, grunting, rolled with the impact. Again. "Raj," said Uncle Nigel, bewildered. "It was Addison's idea." Up on the balcony, Addison was thrilled with Raj's distraction. "Eddie," he said, snapping his fingers, "mayhem!" "With pleasure," said Eddie, who set to work hurling chairs, tables, and floral centerpieces over the balcony into the crowd below. Addison grabbed Molly and sprinted for the stairs. He paused to toss one flower vase over the railing just to see how it felt. It landed somewhere below with a satisfying crash and an angry yelp from a Russian. Smiling, Addison raced down the steps and into the melee. The Russians and the Chinese quickly descended into a full-on brawl. Addison had not seen so many flying Russians since his last trip to the circus. He ducked a soaring Slav, sidekicked sideways across scattered chandelier shards, and scuttled with Molly to the center table. Uncle Nigel grabbed Sir Frederick's shield and charged for the exit, but was body-tackled by some Russians who clearly had wrestling experience. Aunt Delia scooped up the shield and frisbeed it at a towering triad who blocked her path. It belted the man in the gut. The triad bent, doubled, then tripled, and then somehow quadrupled. The shield rolled crazily around the floor, chased in dizzy circles by frantic tattooed triads. Madame Fang's guards threw sacks over Aunt Delia and Uncle Nigel's heads, jerked their arms behind their backs, and hustled them to the front door. Molly struggled to reach them, ducking a barrage of whirling fists and kicking legs. Desperate to clear a path, she attempted a roadhouse kick on the kneecap of a passing triad. The hardened criminal turned to face her. His ears were pierced. His nose was pierced. His lip was pierced, and he hit Molly with a piercing stare. In this moment, Molly learned a valuable life lesson. If you've only taken 8 weeks of kung fu lessons, maybe don't pick a fight with a Hong Kong gang member. The pierced man attacked. The only reason his first punch missed was that Molly was a foot shorter than the sort of people he was used to punching. He wound up to try a kick instead. Raj was chasing the shield around the room like a happy Labrador at the beach when he spotted Molly's predicament. "I'll save you, Molly!" He leaped on a table, built up speed for a flying kick, slipped on the tablecloth, and crash-landed in a clatter of silverware. The distraction gave Molly just enough time to crush a vase over the pierced triad's head. "Thanks, Raj," she said, pulling him to his feet. Raj was not out of the woods yet. Any man with that many piercings must surely have a high tolerance for pain. The triad shook his head woozily and lunged with both hands. Raj bobbed and weaved, but was soon cornered in the elbow of a restaurant booth. Addison saw Raj's danger. What Raj needed was a weapon to defend himself. "Heads up!" Addison snatched a heavy jade tiger from a nearby pedestal and flung it at Raj. For a split second, Addison thought Raj might actually catch the flying jade tiger. For the next split second, Addison was terrified the flying jade tiger might catch Raj on the crown of his head, knocking his best friend out cold. In the next split second, the flying jade tiger missed Raj entirely and shattered the 10,000-gallon fish tank. Addison watched the glass break as if in slow motion. One moment, there was a spiderweb of cracks spreading across the tank. The next moment, a tidal wave of water swamped the restaurant. The aquarium accomplished what no amount of brawling could do. It knocked down every gang member in the restaurant. Addison was swept halfway across the room on the seething tide. Sharks flapped about on the floor like eggs in a frying pan. Russians picked seaweed out of their hair. A beached triad flopped on his back, gasping for air. Addison realized it was the pierced man. Addison's favorite word in the English language was corn nobble, meaning to slap with a fish. He had long wondered if he would ever be lucky enough to corn nobble someone. At last, fate was lending a hand. Addison found a flounder floundering on the floor, took it by the tail, and walloped the pierced triad across the face with a satisfying smack. Addison smiled. He deplored violence, but he condoned corn nobbling. Struggling to his feet and silently mourning his soaked leather wingtips, Addison scanned the chaotic restaurant. Every violent gang member wanted a piece of him. The aunt, the uncle, and the shield were gone. Addison could see things weren't going exactly according to his plan, so he rapidly conceived a new one. Run! It was the simpler plans that were usually the best. Molly and Raj took their cue from Addison. They hightailed it into the kitchen, trailed by a team of kickoff triads. Addison burst through the swinging kitchen doors, gang members hounding his heels. His first order of business was opening the freezer door and releasing the angry chef, who was now wielding a frozen hanger steak as a weapon. Addison took a hairpin turn around a prep table and smacked the light switch, pitching the kitchen in pitch dark. He listened to the satisfying music of Russians and triads crashing into everything. overheard tongs and ladles smashed to the ground, followed by loud grunts and metallic clangs. There was even the distant rhythmic yelp of a triad being beaten with the raw hanger stake. It was a sweet symphony. Addison and his team knew the general layout of the kitchen. He navigated through it at top speed with the help of his shins, his elbows, and 3 surprisingly ill-placed garbage cans. He yanked on the back door and found it was locked. Addison jiggled the handle, but it would not give. Hannibal Barca, slayer of Romans. He revised his itinerary. Addison dodged a few fumbling fists and burst back into the restaurant through the swinging doors. The scene had changed remarkably. In 30 seconds, a candle had tipped over and ignited a tablecloth. Now several tables were sprouting flames. A triad was dunking a Russian in an unbroken fish tank until that fish tank broke as well. Madame Fang spotted Addison from across the room. She rallied her men. "Stop those kids! We need them!" Addison zipped up the stairs to the balcony, Raj and Molly at his side and 2 triads tailing behind. Eddie was sopping with sweat and heaving the last potted bamboo over the railing. "Addison, this is a dead end." "Attila the Hun!" Addison shouted. Triads pounded up the stairs. Addison saw only one option. He took a running start and threw himself out the window. All right.